Today's episode is 5 tips for dealing with limited housing inventory as an agent. One of my clients came to me and he said, "Oh, my offer didn't get accepted. We were the second one." And I was like, "Well, you need to stay in contact with the listing agent and stay front of mind with her because number one, you never know when that deal that was accepted is going to fall through, right? Because we see it all the time. Deals fall through, buyers get buyer's remorse, and they're like all happy for 5 seconds when their offer gets accepted. And then they're like, oh no, I'm making the worst decision ever. Happens all the time. I said, look, stay in front of that listing agent. Like, make sure that she doesn't forget who you are. Check in with her like once a week and ask her, like, hey, how's everything going with that deal? Hey, did you guys get through inspections? Hey, did appraisal happen already? Because you never know when it's going to fall through. If it does, right? So if it does fall through, you definitely want to stay in front of the agent's mind when it does so that they can call you before they go and send an email out to everybody else or before they go back to active on the MLS. And he stayed in touch with this agent once a week. By the 4th week of staying in touch with her, she came to him and said, hey, I have this house that I'm going to sell. It's in the same community. Are your buyers still looking? She told him, all right, well, let me arrange something with the sellers and we'll see if we can, get something going. And essentially, my clients saw the house. They did a deal off market, an exclusive listing, and my agent and his buyers were able to get under contract on a property completely off market. They were able to secure the house without any competition. End of story. Happy ending for all. But what is the purpose of the story? Number one is obviously our client stayed in touch with that agent, and because of his tenacity, his name was at the forefront of her mind as soon as she had an opportunity for him and potentially his buyers. So 5 tips on how to deal with the limited housing inventory in today's market as an agent. Number 1, provide feedback to the listing agent after your showing has been complete. So what does that mean? It means if you get a message from ShowingTime that asks you for feedback, give feedback. Even if it's not good feedback or if it's great feedback, give feedback, right? Because these listing agents obviously have somebody else to respond to. They work for the seller. So they are depending on your feedback to be able to get back to the seller and say, hey, here's how these showings went. And by you providing that feedback, gives them the opportunity to do their job better. You took out 15, 20, 25 seconds to do, a feedback form that is going to help the listing agent and make you look good because you took the time out to do that. If ShowingTime doesn't give you a prompt to give feedback in any way, but you are in a text message with the listing agent because that's how they wanted you to confirm the appointment or what have you, send them a message after the showing. Let them know that the showing is complete, that the lights have been turned off, all the doors that are locked, and give them feedback anyway. Tell them that the house showed really well, or tell them that the house smelled like cats, whatever. Giving them and providing them feedback, whether or not they ask for it, could be really valuable to them. And just letting them know, listen, the showing is complete. We finished. The house is all locked up. All the lights are off. And thank you for the opportunity to show. That small message can go a super long way in making an impression on that listing agent. Now they know you, right? They know that you took an extra few seconds out of your day to give them some feedback and you're making an impression, which could go a long way. Number 2, when submitting an offer, you have to make sure that your offer is neat and organized and complete. So make sure that you're reading the notes on the MLS, make sure that you're following the instructions that are on the MLS, and make sure that you send over a complete package. A complete and concise package that is beautifully written and very well organized is going to be your chance to make a first impression on that agent. And first impressions are everything. It's probably going to be also the first impression that you make to not only the agent, but to the seller. So you want to make sure that your paperwork is super neat, it's super concise, and very well organized. Number 3, discussing different strategies with your buyer to put them in the ideal position to get an accepted offer. So for example, because there's a lot of competition in today's market, it's super important that you position your client's offer in favor of the seller. You can find out what the seller's timeline is, right? Get in touch with the listing agent and just simply ask, what is the seller looking for in terms of a closing date? Perhaps there is some information that's not available on the MLS. So by simply asking, you can find out what the seller is looking for. Maybe they're looking for a summertime closing because they want their kids to finish school. Maybe they're looking for an ASAP closing because they need to sell the house quickly because they're moving out of state. So you really need to find that out so that you can position the closing date in the favor of the seller. If there are multiple offers, there has to be strategy behind that in terms of offering more than asking price. So as an agent, you need to run your comps. You need to know the area. You need to know what houses similar to this house, right? Comparing oranges to oranges and apples to apples. What are things selling for? If the property's listed for 500, but the comps come in and it says 550, you're understanding there's multiple offers. We cannot know what the other offers on the table are, but there's strategy behind that, right? So if you know what the data is saying and you know what the house 2 doors down sold for in a very similar condition, same style, same number of bedrooms, same number of baths, and it's sold for 550, then you know your offer needs to be around that price. So that way you can at least give your buyers evidence of this is what sold a month ago, the same exact house in, let's say, worse condition. We need to come in at this price. This is the offer that I suggest you guys going in with. These are the reasons why. Here's the data, and that's that. Considering to waive any contingencies. For example, inspection contingencies, making it very easy and seamless for the seller, right? So if you waive inspection contingency, if you waive appraisal contingency, that is bringing a lot of ease to the seller because they don't necessarily have to worry about having to do repairs or renovations or giving credits prior to closing. If you're waiving appraisal contingency, then it doesn't really matter what the appraisal comes in at. They're still going to get their contract price despite whatever might happen with the appraisal company. So those, I would say, would be the 3 major things to position yourself and your buyer to win. The 4th tip that I have is communication is key. Being in consistent communication with the listing agent and making every effort to do so upon submission of your contract will go a long way. So for example, making sure that they got it, right? So not only just sending out the offer, but making every effort to ensure that they actually received it, because sometimes things go to spam. We see it all the time. Other agents submit offers on our clients' listings, and 3 days later, they're like, what's the status of my offer? And we're like, what offer? It went to spam. It never reached us. It never reached the seller. It never reached the agent because their offer never got to us. It went into spam. And blown away, because in my mind, I'm like, why didn't you call? Why didn't you send a text, a bird, or something to let us know that you sent over this offer and you want us to look at it? Like, what kind of service are you providing to your buyer by not communicating with the listing agent to ensure that your offer is in the hands of the listing agent so that it could eventually make the hands of the seller? The other thing too is when you submit your offer is communicating with the agent to let them know, like, I have my full team of my admin. The buyers already have their attorney. Who is their attorney? Who is their lender? Who is their title company, if they have one? Who is their home inspector? And all of these pieces so that the listing agent can see, wow, this agent really knows what they're doing. They have their whole squad. Everybody's kind of already ready to get booked and confirmed, so that if we accept their offer, this deal is going to go very, very smoothly. Definitely always check your work, follow up with the agent to make sure that they've received it, make sure that the agent knows who your team is, who you're working with, and make sure that they're reputable people, make sure they're reputable lenders, attorneys, etc., etc. And obviously that will make the listing agent and the sellers feel like, wow, this agent really knows what they're doing. Also, even send the agent a link to your Zillow so that they can go in and see how many deals you've closed in the last 12 months. If you're an agent that closed 24 deals in the last 12 months, then clearly you're an agent that knows what they're doing. So don't be afraid to brag about yourself and let the agent know working with you would be to their best benefit and to the benefit of their seller. Number 5, and our last tip, is just like I said in the beginning with our story, is even if your offer does not get chosen, continue to stay in communication with the listing agent. You never know when that property is going to come back on the market. And even though the sellers might not pick your offer and that falls through, If you keep in touch with the listing agent and that house comes back on the market, you never know. That listing agent, because they remember you, they might contact you first. And they might say, hey, are your buyers still available? That might work out great for your buyers, but you also never know. It might turn into another deal in the future. I have another example where one of our clients, their offer wasn't chosen, but they stayed in great communication with that listing agent. And then that listing agent had another listing in a totally different town, different set of buyers, totally different scenario. But that listing agent was so impressed with that agent's tenacity as well, and their follow-up and their follow-through, that they were like, I was so impressed with you from the last deal. I was so sad we didn't pick your offer, but we really want to work with you on this deal. So like, what do we need to do to make it work? So communication is key. Following up, even if your deal does not get chosen, you never know what kind of doors just following up might open for you, just because you stayed in communication with the listing agent, even though your offer was not chosen. All of these tips are great. And although they are super valuable, you don't want to find yourself doing all these tasks yourself. If you're an agent looking to offset some of these administrative tasks and buy more time back so that you can double, triple, quadruple your business, definitely schedule a discovery call with us and we can see if we're a mutually good fit.